A long time ago, something very interesting happened. Listen closely because what happened long ago is happening again now. A group of men and women were riding their horses up a steep mountain on a dark night. Suddenly, a voice from the sky said, "Get off your horses, pick up rocks, and fill your bags. Then get back on and keep going. Tomorrow morning, you will be both happy and sad." Some people got off their horses, others didn't. Some collected many rocks, others took only a few. They put them in their bags, got back on their horses, and kept going. When the sun came up, just like the voice said, they felt both happy and sad. They were happy because they found out the rocks were actually diamonds in the daylight, but they were sad because they didn't take more. I hope that when we finish this video, you feel both happy and sad. I'm here today to show you the real path to finding diamonds, hoping you'll be glad you took some and sad you didn't take more. So, shall we make a deal? Let's make the most of these minutes in the video. Disconnect from everything else and focus only on this video. To show you're interested, type like this: "I will pick many diamonds." Just comment, "I will pick several diamonds." When I see this comment, I'll give you a heart because I'll know you really focus on what you're doing, and that's why you'll be successful. Now that you've commented, let's continue. I want to start our lesson with a very important line. Please write this down if you can. Never let what you can't do stop you from doing what you can. The main reason for this video is to give you new hope. This is important because we start to give up on life when our memories of the past are stronger than our dreams for the future. When someone keeps talking about what they did in the past, it's a sign they are giving up on living more. So, by giving you new hope, you realize you can set new goals and dreams. Now, I have a challenge for you watching. Think about the 3 most important things that have happened in your life so far, from when you were born until now. The 3 special and good moments. If you had to pick 3 moments to represent your life on this planet, remember what Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, a wise man, said: "We are not just people having a spiritual experience, we are spirits having a human experience." We're here to go through the ups and downs of life. We have good times and bad times. It's no surprise we start life crying because we know there will be tough challenges. This world isn't perfect. If anyone thinks they can be happy all the time, they're mistaken. Here we have moments of joy and moments of sadness. It's all part of the journey, like a roller coaster. In hard times, we know it won't last forever. Things will get better. And in good times, we know they won't last forever either. They will get worse. Understanding this concept can help. So, back to the challenge. Think about 3 special moments in your life, important from birth until today. Pick 1, 2, 3 moments. I assume you already have these 3 moments in mind. I bet at least 2 of these big moments weren't planned. Maybe the day you had children, started a family, or the day you met your spouse. You didn't wake up one day thinking, "Today I will meet someone to fall in love with and marry," did you? On an unplanned day, you met someone, talked to them, became friends, and later fell in love and got married. When you look at your life, you realize the magical moments weren't planned. You were doing something normal, and then something amazing happened. We call these moments miracles, even though we don't always recognize them as such. For example, you go to the store to buy sugar, and while waiting in line, you start talking to someone who ends up giving you a tip that leads to a huge financial success, like making $1 million. You went to the store for a simple reason and came out with an idea that could change your life. But this idea will only work if you keep hope in your heart that things will turn out well. If you expect the worst, it's better not to start because you'll likely fail. As Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. If you believe you can, you'll work to make it happen and eventually succeed. But if you think you can't, you won't move forward, and everything will go wrong just as you feared." Life, like a cake, needs many ingredients to be complete. One key ingredient is the ability to talk and listen to others. But the first thing you need is respect for yourself, your self-image, and how much you value yourself. You can't give what you don't have. You can't offer love to others if you don't love yourself. You can't share wisdom with others if you aren't wise yourself. and you can't communicate with others if you don't know how to talk to yourself. So, the first thing we need is self-love and self-respect. This is called self-esteem. It's how we see ourselves. And here's some good news: self-esteem and self-image aren't solid like cement or steel. They are built through words. No one has to stay the way they've always been. I repeat, no one has to stay the way they've always been. We are the only creatures on Earth who can change completely. And do you know what that means? It means starting fresh, no matter what happened in your childhood, no matter the pain you felt until now. Your past was just a step to get here. Your future is a chance to go wherever you want. But if you don't realize this, your future will just repeat old patterns. What patterns in your family would you like to change? Because like every family, yours isn't perfect. To become a doctor, you need to study medicine. To be a lawyer, you need to study law and pass a tough test. To be a journalist, you need to study journalism. But to be a parent, all you need is to have a child, and that doesn't require any special training. So, most parents aren't ready. They learn from their mistakes, just like their parents learned from theirs, and you will learn from your children. That's how life goes. Don't blame yourself, it's just the way it is. We learn from our mistakes. With the second child, we make fewer mistakes, with the third, even fewer. If we think about what we're doing wrong, another key ingredient in life is communication. Back when farmers ruled the world, owning land meant power for life. In the times of factories and machines, those with money ruled. But today, my friends, what matters most is what you know. Knowledge is the new power. You can have a lot or a little, but it only matters if you use it and share it. And sharing happens through talking and listening, through communication. So for all the young people watching this video, being able to communicate is crucial for success in both personal and work life. It's part of human nature to get better and grow. You'll never hear someone ask for a worse life because things are too good. No one has ever asked for that. But tough times come to make us stronger. That's part of growing, part of life, like climbing a mountain to reach the top. You young people will see this in life. You'll achieve your goals, go to college, find jobs, get promoted, start your own businesses. That's part of the journey. As you move forward, perhaps the most important thing is dialogue, the ability to talk, express yourself, and understand others. Of course, I'll introduce you to a model of dialogue I created. It's a new idea you probably won't find anywhere else. Let me explain the idea first. If I give you a pearl today, you might just put it in your pocket. If I give you another next week, you'll keep it too. And if I give you one more in 15 days, you'll keep that one as well. If we meet again in 6 months and I ask about the pearls, you might say, I put the first one on a shelf, but someone cleaning threw it away. The second one I left in my pants and it got lost in the wash. And the third one, I hid so well I can't find it. Ever hidden something so well you couldn't find it yourself? That happens. Now, imagine if I gave you those pearls and some string and told you to make a necklace. If we meet in 6 months and I ask about the pearls, you'd know exactly where they are. You'd say, here they are. I made them into a necklace. Friends, pearls are like ideas. The world is full of people who had great ideas but didn't do anything with them or even ruined their lives because of them. Did you know a great idea can destroy a family or a business? That's because it's more important to have a plan for making an idea work than just having the idea. If you know someone with a good business plan in Sao Paulo, Tokyo, New York, Manila, or anywhere in the world, that person will be successful because they have a solid plan. So, let's build the dialogue model. Communication happens on 3 levels, from mouth to ear, from brain to brain, and from heart to heart. Before we go on, it's important to know that hearing and listening are not the same. We hear with our ears but listen with our brains. Ever been to a restaurant and ordered fizzy water but got flat water instead? You asked for one thing, they brought another. At that moment, the server was just using level 1. At this level, no one moves up, wins people over, or gets ahead in life. It doesn't matter how smart you were in school because school teaches facts, but life needs you to be able to do things. Imagine you're in Sao Paulo about to fly to New York. What if the pilot said, I'm not really a pilot, but I've read a lot about flying. Would you stay on that plane? No, you want a pilot who can actually fly and land the plane safely. Life needs us to be able to do things because the real world doesn't care about just what you know, it cares about what you can do. Look around your city. You'll see people who were top of their class but are lost now. But you'll also see people who weren't the best students but are now doing great, making a difference in the community. Why? Because they know how to talk to the world, to people, and they've naturally learned how important communication is. So let me help you build this model, starting with level 1, mouth to ear, then level 2, brain to brain, and finally, level 3, heart to heart. Before we go on, remember, we only reach people's hearts through their brains. There's no other way. It's easy to like people we already like. The real challenge is to start liking those we don't. Just deciding to like someone doesn't really change anything. That decision is all in your head. It doesn't reach the heart. If we don't like someone, it's hard to connect with them deeply. The way to do that is to try to understand them, their troubles, their background, and why they act the way they do. Eventually, we accept them when we can really talk to them, when we're at a level where real things happen. An example is when a dad lectures his son, but the son doesn't really hear it. The dad doesn't realize he's been saying the same things for years with no effect, maybe even causing the son to rebel. When we talk without listening, it's not a real conversation, it's just one person talking. There's a saying, words can convince, but examples really move people. The best way to teach a child isn't to lecture them, but to show them how to act. They'll see what you do and eventually start to act that way themselves. As I said on TV once, talking to a dad who was 45 years old about his 15-year-old son. The dad needs to remember that his son has never been 45, but he has been 15. Parents need to remember what it's like to be a teenager to talk effectively with their kids. I can only really talk to you if we're discussing something that interests everyone. If you have different interests, I need to consider what you like and start our conversation based on that, not just what I'm interested in. It's like setting up a shop window. I wouldn't decorate it just to my taste, but to attract the customers I want. For example, I have a shop where my sister-in-law, who decorates, made it look very fancy. But I sell ordinary things. If someone who likes fancy things comes in because of how it looks, they might not find what they want. And people who would want my ordinary things might feel too shy to come in. In this case, the fancy decoration might be hurting my business. When we talk and listen, we should think about changing an old saying that many people think is from the Bible: treat others as you want to be treated. This is great for spiritual things, but for talking and listening, it's better to think like this: treat others as they want to be treated. For example, if I invited you to dinner, I wouldn't just make my favorite food without asking what you like. In a conversation, it's important to start by understanding what the other person wants to hear, not just saying what we want. Treat others as they want to be treated. Let me tell you a story that shows what I mean. I met a businessman in Sao Paulo who talked about his twin brother. When he was 14, he had a big argument with his family and moved to Sao Paulo, where he became successful. 25 years later, he wanted his brother to visit, so he threw a party at a pizza place because he loved pizza. But his brother felt sick as soon as he walked in because he hated pizza. He tried to make his brother happy in a way that made sense to him, but didn't think about what his brother liked. This is what often happens. We try to show others what we think without caring about what they think. Isn't that true? Think about it. We have two ears at the same level, so what goes in one ear can go out the other. Then the conversation turns into just one person talking because there's no real exchange. To have a real conversation, first, I need a strong message. You'll keep listening if you like what I hear. I need to have something interesting to share. Second, we need to use stories. How did Jesus teach? He used stories. How can I teach something to someone who's never left their hometown? How did Jesus teach about heavenly things to people on earth? He used comparisons and stories. When he told a story, you couldn't argue because he was sharing an idea through the story. Listen to this important story. Once there was a big ship full of gold that stopped working. The owner called the best mechanic around. He worked all day but couldn't fix it. Then they called the top engineer in the country. He worked for 2 days but still couldn't fix it. Finally, they brought in the guy who built the engine. Even though he was far away, he flew in by helicopter, listened to the engine, checked everything, and found a small problem. He asked if they had a hammer, and they said yes. He hit the problem spot, and the engine worked perfectly again. The 3 mechanics sent their bills. The first, who worked a day, asked for $100. The second, who worked 2 days, asked for $400, $200 a day. He was more skilled than the first. And the third, who fixed the engine with 1 hit, asked for $10,000. The owner agreed to pay, but wanted to know why the third mechanic charged so much. The mechanic explained, hitting the screw costs $1, knowing where to hit cost $9,999. It wasn't for the hit, but for knowing where to hit. Imagine we're having lunch and I tell you this story. If you get the main idea, you'll see how it applies later at work. You think about hiring me as a consultant and ask my price. If I ask for a lot and you think it's too much, you'll understand I'm charging for my experience, not just the service. I prepared your mind to see my point of view through the story, using a comparison. Those who are good at talking use comparisons. Politicians who win elections are good at telling stories, as are priests who give sermons that touch people. When you share a story, people relax. You share the story along with the message you want to share, and that message fits into the listener's mind. Another important part of talking is using the right language. For instance, if you're a doctor and use complicated medical terms that only you know, and then your patient goes home and their family asks, "What did the doctor say?" And the patient says, "I don't know, I didn't understand anything," you have to admit you didn't communicate well. A smart doctor uses words that the patient can understand. Similarly, if you have a legal issue and see a lawyer who uses complex legal terms you don't get, you're lost. It's like talking to air. It's crucial to use language that the person you're talking to can understand when having a conversation. It's not the time to show off with big words. Talking should be easy for smart people to understand without needing to be very educated. Use technical terms only when talking to someone who gets those terms. Another important thing is how we see things. What you're trying to share might not be what the other person is getting. If you think you're a good salesperson, then your sales numbers should show it. If you're not selling well, sorry, but maybe your way of selling is off. Maybe your language isn't right, your message isn't strong enough, or maybe you're not using the power of comparisons and stories. Recently, a customer came here and I said to him, "You might be talking to this customer, but really you're talking about last week's customer while this one listens." This is a strategy that invites the customer to connect with your ideas, like a dad talking to his son. At the end of the talk, the son feels inspired to try what the dad suggested. It's an invitation that life gives you. Now, I need you to understand one more thing. If you get this, you'll be very successful. So, pay close attention. We're judged by 3 things: how we look, what we say and how we say it, and what we actually say. In the part about how we say what we say, the model I'm talking about fits in. There's a level where nothing really happens, where you're just wasting time, where talking is just surface level. Like when you order fizzy water and get flat water, because they didn't really understand your order. Many people don't get ahead in life because they can't talk effectively. Talking is crucial these days. If you take away talking from the world falls apart, because information only matters when it's shared between minds, and that happens through talking. I mentioned that life is like a cake with many ingredients. We started with self-esteem and talking. Now let's look at some other parts. An important message for you, young person watching, and for young people of all ages, being young is a choice. I might be 65, but I keep the energy of an 18-year-old. I always look forward, thinking about what I can still do in life. When I keep this focus, my body doesn't age, it stays full of energy. Not setting goals is a mistake. Do you know what an hourglass is? It has sand that hasn't fallen yet, the future, the sand that's falling, the present, and the sand that has already fallen, the past. The sand that hasn't fallen yet is the future, the one falling is the present, and the one that has already fallen is the past. Let's think about the present for a moment. Do you know why it's called the present? Because it's a gift. No matter where you are, it's always here and now. Have you noticed that life is always in the here and now? This moment is when you live. If you can't be in the moment, it's like a cat walking on a hot roof, only feeling the heat. Many people are like that, controlled by technology, by the clock, by the constant ringing of their phone. They don't live in the moment and then complain about feeling sick, tired, having trouble sleeping, and not being able to focus on simple things, like reading a book. Let's go back to the hourglass. The sand that hasn't fallen yet is the future, the one falling is the present, and the one that has already fallen is the past. You might have heard that the past shapes the present and the future. That's true. But Albert Einstein showed that time doesn't just go in a straight line. I'll show you now that the future also shapes the present, and the present can even change the past. Imagine you book a trip around the world for next month, and today is Sunday. I promise, Monday will already seem more exciting. You have 30 days until your trip, but you already feel happy today just knowing you're going to travel. See how the future shapes the present. Have you heard people say, sometimes looking forward to something is better than the actual event? Think about a Christmas dinner you planned carefully, but it was ruined by a fight between family members. Looking forward to the dinner was better than the actual dinner. Sometimes the excitement before an event is more thrilling than the event itself. So, if you have goals for the future, young people, listen to me, your present becomes more interesting. If you don't have plans for the future, you're heading for trouble, like many addicts I've met. They've lost sight of tomorrow, thinking only about today. People who live only for today don't move forward. Addicts use drugs and only care about satisfying their needs today, without thinking about how those drugs will hurt them tomorrow. I hope you see that the future shapes the present. I'll prove to you now that the present can even change the past. Once, a woman about 70 years old came to me. She was going through a divorce and heard that I could help her feel stronger emotionally. She told me her story. She and her husband had been married for over 25 years and decided not to have kids. They had a routine where they traveled for work during the week and met up on weekends at a farm they owned near Sao Paulo. But a sad event happened when the woman's aunt, who raised her and was visiting from Brazil, suddenly died at the farm. Since then, she couldn't bring herself to visit the farm, while her husband wanted to keep going every weekend. This was causing a big problem between them, leading to a divorce. I asked the woman why she didn't want to go to the farm anymore. She said it was because her aunt died there. I suggested a different way to look at it. Maybe her aunt chose to die at the farm as a gift to her, to show her love. I talked to the woman, offering this new view of the situation. She listened, although she was eager to leave. In the end, she went back to the farm and has stayed married to her husband ever since. I didn't change the fact that her aunt died at the farm, but I changed how the woman saw that event. We can't change someone's past, but it's important to understand that everything that has happened in our lives has a reason, maybe a spiritual one, that brought us to this moment. Our future is full of possibilities, and it's up to us to decide what it will be. We are the only creatures on Earth who can think about the future. I suggest we focus on the future because that's where we'll spend the rest of our lives. If we hold on to bitterness from the past, we limit our future. Maybe someone hurt you in the past, and you still haven't forgiven them. Forgiving isn't just about love, it's also smart. Holding on to anger hurts us, not the other person. Not forgiving is like holding a hot coal and waiting for the other person to get burned. By forgiving our parents or anyone else, we let go of a heavy load and make room for a brighter future. I want to end by sharing a story. Once, a writer who lived by the sea saw a young man throwing starfish back into the ocean. The writer doubted whether it made a difference since there were so many starfish on the beach. He said, "With all these starfish here, and you only throwing one or two back, do you think it makes a difference?" The young man picked up another starfish, threw it back, and said, it made a difference to this one. He picked up another and said again, it made a difference to this one. I want to tell you, this video might not help everyone, but if it makes a difference for even one person, it's worth it to me. If this video made a difference for you, comment like this, it made a difference to me. I don't know how you'll use what you heard today, but remember, everything is worth it when the soul is big. I hope new paths open for you, and may God always be by your side, lighting your way. Now, 2 videos full of wisdom are appearing on your screen. Click on them and watch now.